actually went to my MOS school, or my basic school in Meridian, Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
And we spent a few months there. Now, I guess a little bit, I can say the start of my active duty coincides with Desert Storm, Desert Shield.
Mm-hmm.
I went to boot camp the day after Desert Shield turned into Desert Storm.
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole time I was in boot camp, we're basically told, you're going to war, or everything, all this has started. And I was in Mississippi when it actually really, really hit around March of '91. It was like late February, early March. So, and we were about to be done with our school, and we kind of was under the belief that as soon as I finish school, we're going to Iraq. And so the end of my MOS school, my occupation school, was the start of basically the ground war in Iraq, and it kind of went so quick,
Mm-hmm.
and so by the time I got to Cherry Point, North Carolina, it was kind of basically, they were sending people over there for cleanup,
Right.
and I got kind of lucky by not having to go. Then I ended up in North Carolina, in Cherry Point, North Carolina, and I was working in the headquarters squadron, and I believe I was in North Carolina for about 4 years, 3 or 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
And throughout that time, we had various temporary active duty locations. We went to Norway. I guess probably the worst time while I was in the Marine Corps was training for cold weather up in Wisconsin, and it was just freezing cold. It was actually that, training for cold weather, and we had to stay out in the elements for 3 days, freezing out there in the snow. Probably the worst experience. It was worse than boot camp. I left Cherry Point and went to Okinawa, Japan.
Mm.
Spent a year over there actually working in the general's building. And I was there during the time when the big, I can't even put the right word on it, but the terrible event happened where we had 4 American service members raped a little girl. And the Japanese people were actually picketing in front of the general's building, telling us to get out of their country or what have you. And so that was a trying time there, because the general's building was on one base and we lived on another base, so we had to actually drive through the gate, through the picketing and everything, which was definitely an unfortunate circumstance. I left Okinawa, went to Camp Pendleton, California. And I think I was there for like 2 or 3 years, and that completed my working in 1st Marine Aircraft Wing, 2nd Marine Aircraft Wing, and then I ended up in 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing in California. So I actually covered all 3 Marine Aircraft Wings. Recruiting in Orangeburg, the most challenging and joyful duty station I had. I actually, when I moved from New York, I moved to Sumter, South Carolina, and I graduated from Sumter High School. So I'm a straight Marine Corps from Sumter High. So when it came time when you would have to, do what's called a B billet, either a recruiter or a drill instructor, I was selected to be a recruiter. And so when you go to school, they kind of try to give you your options of where you want to do your tour. So I was trying my best to get to Sumter, because my mother now lives in Sumter. I was trying my best, tried real hard to get to Sumter. And they was like, we couldn't get you Sumter, but we got you Orangeburg. Which is kind of funny, because my wife now, when she graduated from high school, she came to South Carolina State, and then she began teaching right here in Orangeburg. And we were, high school sweethearts, and when I went in the Marine Corps, she went to college, we kind of drifted away from each other. And then while I was in California at Camp Pendleton, out of the blue, one of my friends saw her and gave her my phone number. She called me back, and I was like, hey, how you doing, what have you, and flew out to California a couple of times. She was just starting teaching, so her little teacher breaks, flew out there, and we kind of started working a relationship. And then when I got recruiting duty to Orangeburg, which is kind of funny. I guess it was kind of like fate pushing us back closer together. You know, y'all tried to do it from California to South Carolina. How about trying it in Orangeburg? Which worked kind of because a year later we got married. And so she put up with me for the last 20 years, which is great. I say it was the most rewarding and challenging because my responsibility was basically, the basic responsibility was to find people to put them in the Marine Corps. That's basic. But there's a lot that goes into making that happen. So I had an opportunity to meet and talk to a lot of young men and young ladies who had a strong desire to enter the Marine Corps, but were not able. They could not academically pass the test required. And the reward and the great part was the young men and ladies that I did put in and seeing them, you know, have an opportunity to change their life and their situations because they came from varied backgrounds. The terrible part is when I had a young man, a young lady who was not in the best situation economically, and they were trying their best to do a change, and I couldn't do nothing for them. I know it hurt them bad, but it hurt me real bad as well, saying, you know, I can't even help. And so that really did put a stain on me, and it kind of affected my, you know, going into my next career. My main goal was, if I can give one person the opportunity to be able to fight for your country, I've done my job. And I was really disgusted or upset with, and I understand fully the reasons why they did not allow these people, you know, they did not qualify, you did not qualify. If you don't qualify, you don't qualify. But I was kind of more burnt with the fact that I have to tell someone, you're not good enough to die for this country. And that's in essence what I was telling them. So, and deciding to become a teacher, I was like, I want to give people more chances. Not necessarily just to go in the Marine Corps or any branch of the service, but the fact that you have this option. And you say, I don't want to do that because I don't want to, instead of I'm not doing that because I can't. And that kind of is really truly my goal right now as an educator, you know, making sure every person I come in contact has the greatest opportunities to do whatever. My story is not the same for everybody else. You know, I was one of those guys who, like I said, was blessed enough that you made some mistakes in your life, but you better get, you know, this is your opportunity to get it right. Everyone, you know, can't have the same story. And so that's why I decided on elementary and like building that foundation, basically. And when I was fortunate when I first started teaching, my first teaching assignment, I had a single gender boys class, 4th grade single gender boys. Exactly what I was looking for. You know, being able to impress upon these young men what it takes to be a man, you know, in society. And so, you know, and it even to this day, everything I do still goes back to remembering I gotta get these guys prepared for the real world.